There's another question here.
The acceptance process, I think, for either BlackBerry and Apple to get into the store, is there a way to share your requirement document to get accepted before you go through the development process and the expense? So you don't, so what I'm getting at is, with the Android platform, they don't care what your application is.
I'm sure they're going to change in the future, right?
Right, but, you know, the risk
Well, I understand the application has to be ready to be deployed before you can submit and register for the application with the certificate and all that complexity. It has to be built, and then they could deny it, and you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out why they denied it. And sometimes they're not that descriptive. I think they're trying to be better about that, but you do have to develop an app. So you may want to just develop a very, very, very light app that has a splash screen and sends an email. Get it through into the process and get it out there. It doesn't do much. You don't have to publicize it, but you're now on the marketplace with that app. Then you add features, they're going to want to review those features, but you're already in the store, and the process is going.
Right, because, you know, there's a, I don't know how true, and you know, you wonder about how, you know, someone is exercising control when they shouldn't be. That's not representative of the organization, but I've seen, you know, a guy had an online magazine, and a magazine that he runs on mobile devices, and it's a Android magazine, and he published it to the iStore, but they denied it, and his message was, this isn't something for our users. And it wasn't very descriptive, but then it makes you think, well, how do I know that you're right, they're not exercising some level of censorship based on, you know, what we're developing, you know, might compete with some service that they have. And that's why I was wondering, is there a way to get through that?
That's the one aspect to get through that, is when you register as a developer, you are in fact already going through that process. But that's a part that takes a long time to get approval as a developer before you can put the app up. Now, they put the app up, and then it takes a week, and they get back, and it's like, no, this just, we have enough card apps, for example. That's one of their things that's right in there. That's one of their things they actually have in their user interface guidelines. They're, you know, if they have enough of those, so they're going to tell you. So that's after you do that.
I don't really think the iPhones or BlackBerry or anybody else is going to deny an application that's produced by a state agency, especially if you're serving a need for your customer. If that happens, I sure would like to know about it, because that's something.
I doubt very highly if you were a state agency that they don't know. You don't know. It's impossible.
Well, I could see where if it were a mapping application that somehow through partnership with Apple and Google, that somehow, they felt it wasn't in Google or some other partner's best interest, if this same information was available for free, at the end of the day, they can say, no, it's not going on in the store, because it's a proprietary environment, and there's nothing open about it if they don't want it to be. So they can say that they don't restrict what goes on there.
There might be special cases.
I mean,
we use the Google Maps, so
yeah.
they're part of the applications. So.
Right. No, I'm just using that as an example. Something where there's a private.
It's a good question.
It may not even be Apple's, product that's in competition. It may be one of Apple's partners. You just never know.
You never know. It's a good question, and as we progress in building mobile applications and start putting things out there, it might be something that comes across the table. We don't know. The future's changing with mobile apps so much. We sat in our meetings, or what do we do here? We got to do some more research and talk to our advisors and so forth, and legal too. We cannot do and so forth.
One quick example on your side, your application. If maybe you write an application that reports some kind of accident, you just press a button and it reports the accident. Very basic, but get it through the process, and then you add features. I talked about features earlier. That might be an option. Try to get that into the store as soon as you can.
The 511 site initiative as a whole, because it's actually the federal program where they want 511 to go nationwide, and states are starting to bring it up, and hopefully, eventually, they'll all tie together, and it provides information like I say, from trains to buses to transit. You can do just about everything, you know, and there are plans to add things to the 511 site and the apps in the future, you know. It's always going to expand and grow.
Yeah, it's just that right now the apps are up at this level, and as they get down into domains that might be important to either their carrier or them as a company, that might start to ruffle their feathers.
Right. All right, that's all I have.
Did you find that the challenges you had with the vendor was particular to the fact that it was a mobile app, or they the usual types of challenges you had with a
Well,
vendor?
I think the challengers with the vendor working through our process is because the mobile application side of it, the development is so quick. So quick, you know, most of the time when you have an application developed, we're talking months and years, you know, not, you know, weeks. I think if they were aware of our procedures and our process prior to, we sat down with them and said, okay, first we're going to do this, do a requirements document. Then we want a design document. Our design document's meant to, you know, make sure that we're talking the same language here. And, you know, how you're going to take our requirements and how you're going to meet those requirements and produce it to our customer, and how you're going to do that. And their main answer is, well, we're going to do it like this. Let me do a demo. And that's not what we want. We want to document it. So we have that documentation for future use and so forth. You know. So I think if we sat down prior to, went through the whole process with them slowly, so they understand the whole process of the government portion of it, it would have gone smoother and quicker.
Yeah, I think that's something that's going to come down to us as webmasters too, if it hasn't already, that quickness. And I think that's one of the things when I talked in the beginning about how mobile, I think, is going to change the way we do things. I think that's one of the things. How many people here have iPads deployed at the executive level within their agency? Anyone? Any kind of tablets? Because I know there are some agencies that have started to do that, and I'm reading about that more and more, that that's really becoming almost a de facto standard in corporations. Think that. Go ahead.
We actually had started that process and pulled it back.
Pulled it back because of security or what?
Various concerns. The applications weren't working exactly as we had hoped that they were, and also managing the iPads was we're not at all Apple at our place, so managing the iPads was becoming quite a hurdle, and so they pulled it back.
And when these playbooks and other tablets come out,
The Blackberry Playbook.
that'll change it. But I think, but what I've been hearing is that now they're running around with these things, and they want apps, and so it trickles down to the app developers and the webmasters. And you see, you know, guys like Anthony come here and develop an app in 5 minutes in front of us. People will go and say, hey, I saw him do it. You know,
It took 3 days to build that app.
yeah, I know. Someone else in the audience says,
Yeah, it
when
took
you look
3
at-
days to build that app. Yeah.
Or something like jQuery. I mean, the tools are starting to develop that if you know, you basically go in and modify a few CSS type parameters or those types of things, and all of a sudden you have something cooking. So that's kind of a...
Just a thing,
Go ahead.
I think aside for you for the iPad, the iPhone configuration utility has been updated with the newer version that came out, and there are newer sign-offs for that. I don't know if your IT department probably has no idea, because they probably don't have a Mac to handle that. However, the iPhone configuration utility works on Windows, so you don't have to. But you're just not going to have the control over the device without a Mac, without the backup, without a lot of the requirements that government agencies and information are going to have. So it's a little nefarious, but basically what's happening is if your executives want to use an iPad, they're going to have to get Mac eventually.
Yeah.
So just to let you know that. We haven't heard that yet, but of course most executives are going to be coming along, and I think that's what happened in the last 4 years. And then there's a flux of new executives who want a lot of things, and then they meet the security concerns of